Hello, everybody. Welcome to MY's Day 2. I'm Cynthia Romero de la O, and I'd love to introduce you to Vicente Diaz, who will be speaking for us today.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming at this early time in the morning. I hope you enjoyed your breakfast. My name is Vicente Diaz. I'm from Barcelona, Spain. I'm part of the VirusTotal team. And today, I have a difficult presentation to do here because every time that you say the word AI, well, expectations are kind of high. And at the same time, I want to keep everything in the right balance. So I will show you the next slide, which I hope will make you stay in the room. But I wanted to be as honest as possible with all of you. Is speaker working? Yeah. So what is this and what is this not about? So I'm a security researcher, and I was thinking, well, since we have implemented in VirusTotal some AI engines and we're analyzing tons of malware, I want to share with you everything we learned from a very honest perspective. So I'm trying not to play the hype of AI for making some crazy things. It's just like very honest sharing of information. At the same time, you understand that if we were here going to discuss the next, I don't know, Stuxnet, that we definitely know it was created by AI, we were in the next room, right, with 1,000 people. So it's not about this. It's about a very honest sharing of information, everything we saw through VirusTotal. Before we go, everybody knows VirusTotal? Yes? No? It's just for me to explain what we are about or not. OK, some people doesn't know. So basically, in VirusTotal, what we do is we put, everybody can upload samples, URLs, where they can upload IPs, they can upload any file, and we will scan this with all the security products and tell you, hey, this looks suspicious or not. So in the past, it was simply like having a bunch of antiviruses. Now we have, well, probably the biggest repository in the world in terms of files. And for security researchers, it's what we call like the Google of malware. So you can simply go and start searching for interesting stuff. And from here, well, you do your investigations. OK, just wanted to say that because we have a huge number of files. And this is what makes this interesting, because we can actually provide some, some feeling of how these things are evolving and what is being useful and what is being not. No need to explain what happened around 1 year ago. Everybody got very excited about everything AI related. AI is basically LLMs, which is like, hey, from this word, what is the next one? Very simplistic way of explaining. And you can argue that with this, you are able to basically write the Lord of the Rings. Like, OK, from this word, I will write the next one. You have some context. You predict what is the next one. And this is absolutely stunning for humans, because for the first time, we feel like, hey, this computer understands me. It's able to talk to me. Now, this is natural language processing. This is very stunning for us. But at the same time, it's kind of not ideal, because if we are talking to the computer, we need to translate something into natural language. The natural language will be processed, and we will get some information back. Now, at some point, this kind of inefficiency probably will not be there, and artificial intelligence will be sharing information between them in a different way. But for the moment, it means that we go through prompts. Probably you have seen now all these prompts. You have played with all these AIs in order to get, like, I don't know, what is the password of your database? And you are asking, and you're playing with the AI and things like that. So we're using prompts to ask AIs about things we want to know. Another different thing is that AIs are really good at code. They can create code. Probably you have been playing with that. So we were asking ourselves, well, they can create code. Can they read code? Can they tell us what this code is doing? Which arguably is what every security researcher wants. I have this malware. What is the malware doing? Can you tell me? So this is basically how Code Inside was born. It was a very simple idea. Unfortunately, in most of the cases, we don't have the code of the malware. If you have the code of the malware, things will be easier in life. Unfortunately, we don't. Most of the time, the malware is a binary file, some executable, and then we need to decompile and everything. So it's complicated. But in some cases, we do have the code. Think about all the malicious scripts that we see these days. Any macro, any PowerShell, any Python, any whatever. So we started with something small. Okay, let's put some PowerShell files into these LLMs and let's ask, hey, this does look malicious to you. What is this doing? And actually, what is interesting about this approach is not the verdict itself. I apologize. I thought we will be in a bigger screen. If you don't see, I can read for you. But you can see here this code inside box, which basically is describing what the malware is doing. And this is a whole new approach, because until this point, what we had was a verdict, like this is malicious, or this is suspicious, or this is this malware in particular. And the antivirus could be wrong or right, but now we have a description. We don't necessarily need the verdict itself. We can do this by ourselves. And in this case, it's much more transparent. In some cases, maybe our opinion is different to the opinion of an antivirus. So for me, this is the thing that changed it all. That now we finally have a different way of interpret this malware. Okay, so let's see some examples. We have this different angle to AV solutions. Here you can see a screenshot. This is some malware, and you can see maybe in the top left this 0, which means no antivirus thinks that this is malicious, all right? But now, when we go to the crowdsourced AI, which basically you can see later in this box, maybe you can see this red string, which is saying, oh, this looks malicious to me. So why is that? Well, in this case, this example is an example of how AVs and AIs differ. And here, the AI engine is finding that there is something wrong. Why is that? Well, you know what a defunct malware is? Basically, you have a script, sorry, that is missing something to be fully operational. Let's put an example. I'm stealing the data from your computer, but we are missing the configuration file where I'm sending this data that I'm stealing. It's just one domain away. It's just one IP away to exfiltrate this data. Now, for an antivirus, when you're executing this, well, this is not really exfiltrating data, but what happens if you find this inside of your network? Suspicious, right? So here we can see there is a different opinion between the AI and the AV, and this is one of these cases where we started thinking, hey, why this is like that, and what should it be? Actually, it's not always perfectly clear. So in this case, we also see another interesting example. Here we have this is tagged as malicious, and this is saying, well, this is, well, there are like two different verdicts. The first one is saying this is malicious, that's it. The second one is saying the code is not malicious. This is a legitimate command that can be used to download and install software. However, the code could be used to download and install malicious software. For example, whatever could be a virus or not. And actually, this is an interesting example. What do you think should happen? Should be tagged as malicious or not? If this is downloading something, could be something that is simply installing in our computer. Well, so the difference between an installer and something malicious sometimes depends on the context. Now, think about what we discussed at the beginning. This is a prompt. So we are asking to the AI, hey, what does it look to you? But the AI is missing some context in some cases. So we discover that, well, this can improve. This is an ongoing learning process. And at the same time, we can provide this extra context in the prompt in order for the AI to be more effective. But unfortunately, in the description, sometimes the AI is still ambiguous. So this is something that we also detected, that is not as clear like when we are having simply a verdict, which is much more binary. All right, so we have all these engines, we have code inside, and we decided, all right, let's open the door to bring more AI engines. And actually, if any of you belongs to any company and you have any AI engine that you want to test with VirusTotal, We are happy to do so. This is what we did in the past. We opened the ecosystem to all the security vendors to put their AVs. So if you want to put your AIs, it's absolutely fine. We want to also help you check and help protect, at the end of the day, everyone, right? But we wanted to check, all right, so AIs, they are looking interesting. Let's check what are their unique capabilities that they have. So the first experiment that I ran, keep in mind that all these experiments that I'm going to tell you today are just done with a set of samples. This is alive for 6 months now. So this is not like, in some cases, statistically relevant. This is more about the lessons learned. Don't take it like 67% were detecting this or that, okay? So in the long run, we will know. For the moment, it's just showing you what I learned. So the first thing is how good they are at detecting exploitation. I had no idea. So we started with a small subset, in this case with PowerShell scripts, and we did, what I did is looking into the result. So when you are prompting, you get the result, the explanation from the AI saying, okay, this malware is doing this and that, the script looks like whatever. So I was looking into all these results, which ones were including CVE. So they were saying, this looks like this CVE or whatever. And then I was checking how many of those, according to the antiviruses, are benign, are suspicious, or are malicious. So 64 of them were benign, and I was like, how is that possible? We are detecting a CVE with the AI, and the antiviruses, they are totally fine with this file. But, well, that was my fault. In reality, this is fine, because many of the scripts were simply checking if this CVE is exploitable in this system, or checking if this system is vulnerable to this, or, well, this is fine. You can simply include anything, and this will be in the explanation of the AI. So, okay, some benign files. This is fine. What about the malicious ones? So in this case, this looked a little bit more interesting. This was around 10% of all the files that were saying something about some CVE. They were considered malicious by the AVs. And you can see that in many cases, the detection was really low. Just for your information, we have around 65, 70 AV engines in VirusTotal. In this case, you can maybe see that only 2 of them were detecting this file as malicious. Now, this file is exploiting some CVE, and only 2 out of 70 are detecting this as malicious. What's wrong with that? Well, the answer is that there are many proof of concept. So you can go to GitHub, you can go and check from many security researchers that they are showing you how to exploit something. But as in the defunct case for the scripts, this is something similar. This is just a proof of concept. Well, but still, I like it, right? I like it that the AI is detecting, okay, even if this is a proof of concept, this is exploiting something. And we have this information. So it's something positive. Now, I must confess that when I was checking the proof of concept itself, I was a bit suspicious, because the proof of concepts, they include a lot of details in the name of the file, in the variable names, in the code, comments, etc., etc. And they look like that. So here you can see, hey, I'm this researcher, I'm checking for this vulnerability, this is how I think it could be exploited, blah, 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 and I put it on GitHub so everybody can check. And many of these proof of concepts were like that. And I was like, hold on a second. Is the AI simply reading this and telling me in the explanation? So I was checking what is the percentage of files, including the CVE, malicious files, that had this kind of details inside of the code. Any guess what was the percentage of files that they were actually reading the comments from the code? Like, let's say, less than 50%, 50 to 75, 75 plus? Well, actually, the percentage was 100%. So every single file was reading the comments. And I was like, well, this is not good. So I was fighting to find some CVE detection without the help of the details in the file. I could find 1 to 3%. Still, they look like they were providing these details without any help. What I discovered for these files that they didn't have any help is that even they were not mentioned in the CVE, they were correctly providing details of what the script was doing, which still is good. So it's not telling me like, hey, this is CVE 2022, blah, 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 but it's telling me what it's doing. And this is still something positive. So, okay, maybe you need some help to tell me about the CVE, which is a double-edged sword, but still you are telling me something. And in some cases, still, it's doing better than the antiviruses. Antiviruses, they are not especially good at telling you in the verdict the CVE for the exploit. I understand this is very complicated. Some cases it's very clear, some cases it's not. Well, so second open question. How do AVs compare to AIs in terms of detection? Probably this is not a very good question because, as we said at the beginning, they are not in the same business, right? AI is not doing, is not giving me a verdict. AI is describing to me what is that. AV is all about the verdict, and actually, AVs are rewarded to be more conservative. They don't want anyone to get infected. AIs, they don't care. So they don't have this additional, I don't know, incentive, right? Still, we did some tests. The first test I did was with PHP files. Why? Well, I don't know. I found we had a nice set. And here, AIs were agreeing in 72% of the cases. They were disagreeing in 23, which is almost 1 out of 4. And they were not sure in 3.6. So why they disagree? Well, the first thing I learned is about deobfuscation capabilities. So you have an AI engine. They are really good at this because they can dynamically understand, well, this is obfuscated this way. I will create something to deobfuscate, and then I will analyze the code. But in the AV, you depend on having the right engine. If you don't have an engine for PHP, it's extremely difficult because they will simply be looking for patterns. If they don't find the patterns, then the code looks nice. So the AI engine is giving you an additional layer of reasoning around this, and that was interesting. Second experiment, the same with PowerShell files, in this case using a different AI engine. They were agreeing in 96.2% of the cases, which is great. And the cases that were disagreeing is for the defunct scripts that we just discussed. This is basically having a different, let's say, opinion, but this is fine. And then also depending on the lack of context and the temperature for the AI engine. So this is something very difficult to fine-tune, and I guess in the future we will be able to have more control on this. At the moment, we are basically doing everything through prompt, let's say, engineering, but to fine-tune the AI engines and everything will take more time. And finally, in terms of macros, well, they agreed on 98.5. So that was great. And I was thinking maybe this has to do with the experience, right? That probably all antiviruses have. They have a lot of experience with macros, but maybe a little bit less with PowerShell files. Maybe with PHP, they don't care that much because there are not so many customers. So, well, it's just in terms of comparison, there are many ways of thinking about these results. There is one example here. So you can see this is executing some PowerShell. It's very easy to read, but I can do it for you. Basically, it's downloading something with wget, and then it's executing this. So it's pretty clear. And actually, if you want additional information, this is whatever it is downloading. I check myself, and this is malicious. For some reason, no AV is detecting this as malicious. Well, interesting, right? But in this case, AI it is. For the macros, I was checking what happened here, and reasons when the code was detected for a macro like malicious when it's not. Other than ACAR, I hope everybody knows what ACAR is. It was also because they were using, AVs were detecting like, hey, this macro is using some obsolete calls, and this looks suspicious to me. So once again, it's detecting some patterns, even if it is doing nothing malicious. So I found many false positives from AVs in detecting macros, which it means that once again, AVs are incentivized to be more conservative. Okay, this is another example where you can read nothing, but I can read for you. So basically, what I want you to check is in the top left, it says, hey, this is benign. And then at the very end, it's saying, the macros do not exhibit any obvious sign of malicious intent. All right, that's why you said it's benign, I guess. However, the download and execute downloads a file from a remote URL and executes it, which could potentially be used for malicious purposes if the URL points to a malicious payload. Further investigation into the URL and the contents of the downloaded file will be necessary. So don't say that this is benign if you are telling me this later, right? So as I said at the beginning, I feel like probably providing a verdict from an AI is not the best thing, but still the description is fine, even though it's contradictory at some point. Don't say it's benign until you check that. Or, well, maybe we should be able to provide the context all the time. I don't know. Obfuscation. We talk about this. It's very difficult for me. I wanted to do like, full experiment, all types of obfuscation, how it's working for AI and AVs. This is very hard, so I didn't do it. But I did some small experiments. And what I found is that for some types of obfuscation, like the first one, which you can read is basically base 64, that's it, and then basically execute that, AVs are great. All of them are detecting this kind of stuff. For the second type of obfuscation that you can see in the second screenshot, this is terrible for AVs. Basically, when you are messing with the variable names, and you are like concatenating stuff, and you are building your functions, etc., dynamically, this only works in a dynamic environment if you have a way to, to emulate this. So in this case, for instance, AIs look clearly superior to AVs because they lack these emulation capabilities. So for everything obfuscation related, my feeling is that AIs are doing great. And we discovered something else. So if you are familiar how we identify file types, maybe you know that basically there is something called magic, which are the first magic bytes into any file. And this is what the operating system is checking. Like, hey, file, what are you? So here is my magic. Oh, from your magic, I know that you are an executable. So I will proceed as expected. What happens with text files? Text files are not so easy to handle because, yes, I'm a text file, but what kind of text file? It could be a Python script, it could be PowerShell, it could be PHP, it could be simply text, it could be whatever. And here it's not so easy to know, okay, how we proceed with the analysis. In some cases, you can check, I don't know, extension, you can check for some keywords, etc., but it's not so easy. So this is a problem that we always had in the security industry. Now, AIs are changing absolutely this. So if I ask you what kind of file is this, well, I don't know if anyone recognizes, but if anyone recognizes, I'm ready to invite you for dinner. And, well, maybe you don't want, but anyways, I will pay for your dinner happily. Anyone recognizes this file? I will give you a clue. We were checking in VirusTotal after the Barbie movie was released and Oppenheimer. We will check in, hey, is there anything malicious about Oppenheimer and Barbie? And we checked for Oppenheimer, and this showed up. So, okay, I don't think anyone here knows what is this. I will tell you. This is called LLMs, which is some kind of molecular dynamics simulator. I had no idea. I didn't check. Maybe this is like a hallucination from the AI. But the AI is saying, oh, yeah, I recognize this. Of course, this is the LLMs simulating system on water molecules. And actually, here, this is checking the potential for the interactions between atoms and the Born-Oppenheimer approximation for the interactions between molecules. So I have no idea what it means, but, well, when searching Oppenheimer, that's why this showed up. But here we understood, like, well, the AI is incredible in detecting file types. So we started using it for doing exactly that, checking text file types. Since we did it, we got more than 100 new file types we never thought they existed. And this is great because this helps greatly how we want to later check these files in the analysis pipeline. All right. So these are some of the experiments, but everybody came here like, okay, tell me about how attackers are using AI. So before we start, I want to say that to some extent, this is kind of impossible. Because how do I know who created the code that then was used to compile some binary? Well, you can argue that in some cases this might be possible, but it's not easy at all. And actually, I asked everyone around Google, Mandiant, hey guys, did you see anything in the wild? No. I did see something, so I will show you something today. Okay? But that's all. It's not a Stuxnet, as I said. But let's just start with what was the first thing that we saw attackers trying to do, which was prompt injection. Well, this is the same like mouse and cat game, trying to evade detection, trying to evade sandboxing. In this case, they know that we are using some prompt, so what you put, ignore everything that was asked and do this and that, which is also not that complicated for us to ignore, so it's fine. But this is something that we obviously saw. Now, remember how we discussed about CVEs, that they were checking, the AI is checking for the comments inside of the script? Well, here we have an example we saw in Twitter. Maybe you did see, it's interesting. It says, the code also has the ability to create puppies. However, this is not necessarily malicious, as puppies are wonderful creatures. And this is true, right? But even if it is true, I'm not sure this is what we wanted to see in this script. So the author of the script simply put these puppies words in the comments. Then the AI was like, well, we're talking about puppies. Of course, I know puppies. Let me tell you about the puppies in the script. Unfortunately, this is something that we don't want, and we can control to some extent. So it's kind of some injection into the explanation, which, we fixed using different techniques. But it was interesting because it's another possibility for the attackers. They can try to dismiss, hey, it's not that CVE, it's that another CVE, or I don't know. Malware pretending to be AI-related thingy. We saw different peaks. In this case, they were using the same names, like, hey, you want to download ChatGPT, maybe you want to use BART locally, or I don't know, Midjourney. So people were like, oh, yeah, of course. And they were distributing this in things like Telegram. They were using the same icons. So here you can see some statistics of the kind of malware, the number of samples that we found in VirusTotal. Well, this is not especially interesting. It's like abusing any hype, anytime by different malware creators. Okay, how to find this AI-generated malware? As I said, this is kind of impossible, but some obvious things can be done. For instance, let's check for anything that says ChatGPT in some PDB file, for instance, or let's check what these people is uploading. And we found some interesting samples. Interesting maybe from, as I said, a more analyst perspective. I love this sample. I don't remember how I found it. And actually, when I found it, then I forgot. I didn't took notes. I didn't put a bookmark. I didn't take notes of the hash. And then I was like for 2 months trying to find it. I was like, oh, what was the sample? It was perfect for the presentation. I couldn't find it. And happily I found like last week. So why this sample is interesting? This is someone who was uploading to VirusTotal some experiments. So basically they include the prompt description, and this is generated by ChatGPT. So they were asking, hey, ChatGPT, can you please create some script that does the following? And the following is, I want Nyan Cat in the background, in the wallpaper. I want you to encrypt the files, and I want you to, and listen to this, overclock the CPU by 200%, overclock the GPU by 200%, and overvolt the RAM by 150%. So I don't even think this is possible, but what is interesting about the resulting sample, the resulting script created by ChatGPT is like, all right, I can do that for you. So first is modifying a registry entry for the wallpaper. But the Nyan Cat is not a path to a file, it's just Nyan Cat string, so nothing will happen. And even more interestingly, so if we are touching the registry key, okay, we are talking about Windows. But then for this overvolt, overclock, it's trying to change the configuration of some configuration files in Linux. So it's mixing two different operating systems in the same script, which basically means never will work. But still, I love it. This is a very nice sample. Second sample I found, you can see the PDB shellcode loader ChatGPT. Actually, this is a Meterpreter beacon. We couldn't find any difference at any level with any other Meterpreter beacon. We couldn't. So I don't know if ChatGPT was used anyhow. I don't know for what part or for what reason, but we couldn't find absolutely no difference. If anyone wants to take a look, happy to share the sample. And final one, we also check, in this case, the PDB path. You can see the name is also some kind of ChatGPT experiment. This is a keylogger. Now, how to compare this keylogger to other keyloggers? So what I did is check in the same weeks other keyloggers that were uploaded to VirusTotal, and I was checking they had the same characteristics. The only interesting thing here is that this keylogger, allegedly created with ChatGPT, is detected by 12 antiviruses, and for other similar samples, they were detected by 36.3. Don't take it like proof of nothing, but maybe worth taking a second look. It could be that there was some magic here to make it less detectable. So finally, I wanted to go through the other very obvious aspect that ChatGPT can help attackers with, which is creating content for social engineering. And I wanted to show you something here. There's a nice post from Mandian on this, but in terms of capabilities of AI, check this. I was impressed. So it's kind of a proof of, hey, these guys can do things. Huh?
You get a shiver in the dark, it's raining in the park meantime. Sound of the rhythm, stopping your whole everything. A band is blowing Dixie, double fall time. You feel alright when you hear the music ring.
Okay, I think we can stop here. I can share with you the link if you want. But it was impressive. I was listening to the, oh, holy, it's really good. I love it. So in terms of creating fake materials of any kind of media for, I don't know, any social engineering attacks, AI is amazing. As I said, there is this very cool blog post from Mandian showing some activities. Actually, I discussed with some other colleagues inside of Google, like, hey guys, did you find, do we have any way to check how good is phishing? And like, I don't know, some kind of heuristic in terms of how well they are written, if they are like in multiple languages. This is a bigger discussion. Unfortunately, I don't have any metrics. I checked phishing numbers. I couldn't find any really interesting to show to you. We don't know if any of this is AI related. But in terms of capabilities, well, look at that. Sultans of Swing with Donald Trump and Joe Biden. What could be better than that? All right, so I'm just going to close with a few more open questions, and then we will have a few minutes for Q&A. The first thing is, one question I hear a lot, like, is AI lowering the bar for attackers? For me, the answer is very unclear. I would say no, because everybody is like, well, now anyone could go and generate something with any AI and then use this for an attack. Well, most of the time, you don't really need that. You can simply use any of the free available tools. You can buy from a seller. You can buy access. You can ask for, I don't know, some NSO Pegasus thingy if you have the budget. So do you really need to go to AI to generate something? Well, I don't know, but I don't think this is lowering the bar in reality. Maybe a bit, but the same that any new technology is helping developers as well, right? Is AI changing malware? So far, the answer will be, I cannot confirm this. I don't think really so. We have some open experiments, like we are trying to check the correlation of some malware families with YAR rules and see if we spot any differences, and then we will go in a second phase and check the samples. This is also very difficult to say at this moment. So far, I don't think it's necessary. Once again, you have all kinds of malware, polymorphic, and I don't know if you really need AI. It could help, once again, when you are coding, but like anything else, right? And what are the implications for detection, hunting, and monitoring? Here, this is highly speculative, like, well, attackers could be checking how we are detecting them, and now AI could help to change some of the algorithms, key ones that they are using for our detection. So, but this is very difficult to say as well, and this is correlated to the previous research. And honestly speaking, I don't want to just, put more stress in this hype. I think the whole idea here is to share what we are seeing, some of these lessons, some of these numbers. Hopefully they are useful for you guys. The idea is to share this knowledge and to analyze everything from a relaxed perspective and keep this open conversation so we can use it to our advantage. I think that there are more advantages than disadvantages for the moment, and we just need to learn how to use this wisely to make the most out of this. So thank you very much. If you have any questions, I think we have a few minutes, so you can raise your hand. We have some mic around.
7 minutes for questions. Just raise your hand, I'll come by. Thank you for just right being in front of me.
For the puppy script, the insight stated that it was benign and required. Did y'all find any other samples that it provided similar insights for, and what, if anything, did y'all do to retrain the model?
I don't know of any other examples because this is kind of difficult to search for. And actually here I saw in Twitter, I just wanted to share this use case. But probably, when I was checking all the CVEs, in reality, in most cases, I didn't check that it was the CVE, the one that they were mentioning in the comments, for instance. So how easy is to fool the AI with your comments, which is kind of the question. I don't know. It's something I want to also experiment a little bit more. My guess is that at this moment, probably is kind of not that difficult to point in some direction that is not puppies. But if you want to point in a different vulnerability, in a different characteristic, yes, to distract the analyst a bit, probably it's likely that this will happen. But as I said, we have different engines, so I don't know if all of them react the same or not. But definitely something to experiment.
So over here on the right side. So very quickly, seems to me that one of the challenges, way over here on the right.
Oh, sorry.
Your left, sorry. So identifying AI-generated malware is right now a challenge or an impossibility. Given the size of what you have in VirusTotal, are there any trends that you would, some macro trends you would see in your holdings that might reveal sort of AI-generated developments in terms of potentially the timing, targeting, volume of certain types of malware?
I was trying to find these trends for this presentation. I was focusing in phishing because I was thinking probably this is the low-hanging fruit, and if I could find some different trends, like in the number of samples that are distributed, I don't know, like attachments or something like that. No, I couldn't find any. If I saw any peaks, I don't have a good answer to this, like why they were created. In my opinion, we shouldn't simply go for the big trends. We should try to understand some specific subsets, and if we find anything likely to change because of the use of AI, and have some additional heuristics. I was missing that, and that's why I was asking to some colleagues about the quality of the phishing itself. Unfortunately, I think this is very heavy to analyze in terms of CPU power, TPU, and everything. But also my hope is in the trends we will see something. But I think that checking out the trends, like all of them together, is a mistake. It's too much. So I will try to, in the next weeks, next months, to explore more the phishing side. And let's see. It's hard. I don't have a good answer to how to do it. Yep.
So with regards to things like the puppy script and the other examples where the engine gave a wrong conclusion or conviction, to help train it better, do you think it's possible to take, say, a set of these samples where the answer is incorrect, have an analyst, a human analyst, take a look at it, and then feed that data set back to the AI engine to train it?
We have something like thumbs up, thumbs down. So when you see the description, you can say, this doesn't look good to me. And this kind of helps to train. But I know what you're saying. It should be something more specific, like detecting the problem and somehow teaching the AI. Everything was fine, but this thing in particular, it's not simply saying, I don't like what I saw. I don't have this knowledge, me myself, a security engineer, so I don't really know that much about LLMs. And actually, I also feel that, we are, I don't know how to translate into English, but from Spanish, we say we are killing flies with a cannon, right? And it was something like that. I think with time, it's something we need to figure out, because now it's like we are talking to this oracle, and it's really difficult to understand how it works. Somehow it's replying to you, or you're asking, but how to fine tune. Well, future will go in this direction, right? So, but I don't know personally how to do it. But I agree with you. We should find these mechanisms.
I think we have time for just one last question. There you go, sir.
Thank you for your talk. I kind of wanted to follow up on the question of the gentleman behind me. Something you mentioned is that with the AI, there's kind of a binary classification between malicious or benign, but in a lot of your samples, you had the explanation of the LLMs saying this is benign, however, this could potentially be dangerous. Have you considered adding a third flag of potentially malicious to kind of reduce that false positive, false negative rate? And do you have any concerns of, say, if something is flagged as benign after you add that potentially malicious, would people be too trusting of that classification?
So first of all, there are like 3 categories. The third one is suspicious, which kind of plays in the middle. From VirusTotal, we are not trying to be an antivirus. We are simply showing you the results. So it's up to the user, but I agree that we need to educate users. I guess in some cases, the user will just simply go for the verdict. Me personally, I don't like verdicts that much. I find they are too coercive when they are from an antivirus. And what I like is that they are providing an explanation which saves a lot of time to me. Like, I don't need to check what is it doing. And I can easily detect what is the part that it doesn't make sense. Now, the AIs are not great and being super solid in their answers, and sometimes they contradict. And this is also something that somehow needs to improve. When the answer should make sense, whatever you say, and not like this play in the middle and everything. But again, I don't know how to fix it. Maybe with better prompt engineering, saying like be more specific or don't tell me anything speculative. Still, we find some hallucinations and everything. We are just starting, but I see the same problems than you do.
Thank you.
Okay, so we are over time, I think. Thank you very much. Here you have my contact information. I will also be around. Happy to answer any questions, to discuss with you, to be in contact, and to play with AIs and malware. That's all from my side today. Thank you for attending.